to pronounce them phonetically was interesting. But Dave did a great job because he's a civilian, so to translate a lot of the military stuff was it was a task for Dave. But
Yeah.
thanks to Dave, man. Hey, Dave, if you're listening, we love you, man.
Who got you? Who got you up to speed with social media? Because you're posting on social media all the time, on Instagram, Twitter. You're all on LinkedIn, and it's videos and edited videos. I mean, are you up to speed, or are you setting it out? Because I might need some tips from
That's
you.
me, man.
You are on it. I'll tell you what. Was that natural
That's
for you?
me. I'll tell you, any of the guys that are artists or authors or writers or whatever they want to do, even though I'm with a great publishing house, Regnery, they have an amazing marketing department and publicists that help when the book launches. You have to be involved. You have to be willing to carry some of the workload, and they don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I always take that into consideration. And so I'm responsible for marketing my own story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't subscribe to the parochial publishing house theory of, well, the book launch is only, 30 to 60 days. No, it's not. This story of heroics and leadership and team building and overcoming adversity, this story is new to everybody that's never heard of it.
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy. So every time I do an engagement or I do some guerrilla marketing or I get a story like that one I posted yesterday on Facebook from the very first book that I ever read, that thing had 3,000 views within a couple hours. It was just nuts.
Yeah.
But those are the types of stories I like to talk about where there's this human connection. It's not just a book and buy this book,
Mm-hmm.
which seems very sterile. It's got to be tied to people. That's just who I am. And whether it's social media or doing videos or doing speaking engagements or doing radio, I think that's important. And to those who want to get a book published, I think you need to understand that as going in positions, you got to be willing to do part of the work. You have to build your own platform. You have to use your own network because, I don't say this disparagingly, a 24-year-old publicist has 1/3 of the amount of connections as a guy who spent almost 25 years in the Marine Corps. He's traveled over 60 different countries around the world. And I have to use my network. To think that they're going to do it on their own would be foolish on my part. So that's how I just continually to stay engaged. And I'll do that for a little while to shift gears a little bit on my next project that I'm working on. And, I still write. I do a lot of op-eds for Connecting Vets and Entercom and Daily Wire, Daily Signal, and clearancejobs.com. They all value my story and expert opinion on certain issues. And, so that keeps me pretty busy.
Can I ask what project you are working on? Or is it
Yeah,
top secret?
absolutely.
Secret Squirrel.
So I'm diving into the deep end of a pool which I have no idea of how to swim, and that is filmmaking. So
Hey!
Yeah, I know it's crazy. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just signed a contract for a full-length feature documentary. Which is not about the book, and I'm not going to give it away, but because there's some non-disclosure issues.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is a great example, Robert, of I've never done a documentary. I've never filmed anything, but I know people who do that, and I'm very lucky that the executive producer who wanted to buy into this project, who's a very well-known Hollywood executive producer, world famed, when I pitched him the story on what I wanted to do, he called me back and said, "Hey, I'm in 1,000,000%." And the reason he did that was not just because he believes in the story that I want to tell, but he knows that I'm willing to put the work in.
Yeah.
And he respects that. And people that get that, they're willing to support you. The film crew that I'm pulling in, they understand this and they're willing to support it. So I'm excited about it. And in case you couldn't tell,
Well, it was the progression. I think I received the hard copy of your book because I pre-ordered it, got the book, and then I read the first 2 chapters before having to finish my thesis. And I wrote you an email. I said, "This is going to be a motion picture one day." I think that's more words or few words. However, I knew it was going to be the progression. I just felt it, that's where you were going to go. But I know you just said it's not Echo and Ramadi that you're going to be working on, but it just seemed like the proper progression for your personality type.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this project, most certainly. And would I be open to having Echo and Ramadi adapted into a screenplay for a movie? Absolutely. I pitched it in April to Regency, Sony Entertainment, Smokehouse, and a couple others with the Writers Guild of America in Hollywood, and haven't heard anything back. But sometimes it takes a while for those things to catch. And I would love it if they adapted Echo and Ramadi into a full-length feature film and really share the story of the people. And a lot of times people ask me, I don't know, I'm going to ask you this question, put you on the spot. What's your favorite war movie? It can be any generation. So give me one of your favorites from like World War II or Vietnam, and then give me your favorite of the war in the Middle East, in Iraq or Afghanistan.
It's hard to not say Saving Private Ryan. Because that was kind of just my generational of big movie. I did like. I'll tell you what. The very first time I saw the Tuskegee Airmen, I cried, but I was a young child. And when it comes to current Middle East movies, I did like. What was the last 12 Strong? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I just watched that, and but what's interesting about your response was it was easy to spit out Saving Private Ryan, and then there's this long pause, like pause, and you were hard pressed to find a movie about this war that we've been fighting for 17 years since the towers came down. A great depiction of that. And I remember reading a review about 12 Strong, and I absolutely think the book was much better. And one of the reviews from one of the characters in the book said something to the effect, I'm going to misquote it, but this isn't the movie we wanted, but it's the movie we got.
Yeah.
And that kind of speaks volumes to the voice of veterans and how that war is being portrayed. And I think 12 Strong, it's Hemsworth, man. He's a sexy mofo, and he crushes it on horseback. And there's this ridiculous shooting M4s from the saddle, and the interaction with the warlords and the Afghan soldiers, and it's exciting. It's a great movie in that regard, but I think it misses that human connection about the people and about all the other pieces that go into what we experience in war. I think we do need more movies about what's happening now, and I think that's an important thing. And one of the reasons I wrote Echo and Ramadi was I didn't want to wait 50 years for this story to be told.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have it linger or be embellished or forget about the facts. I mean, man, I can barely remember my street address most days, let alone think back 12 years on what I did on that battlefield under those conditions. So it was important to me to interview all the Marines and make sure I got it right and that it was accurate. And if it became a movie, I think it would be one of those movies that really shares a very unique story.
I'm actually also really weirdly happy that you included your translators into the story, because their background added value, and you wouldn't even expect that, right? I mean, to hear that these guys got, I don't want to say shunned, but kind of forced out of their own village because of their love for the West. And I mean, just adding those elements. Scott, I appreciate the book, sir. It was really good. It was really good. It was really, really good. And, I had no expectations going into it, and I was just drawn in. So it was very well written or read. Experienced, I'll say. It was very well experienced. So I think, so two things. The last thing is what's going on soon? What's coming up for you?
Coming up next month, one of the great events is I'm going to be speaking at the Half King, which is a restaurant in Manhattan in New York City. It's a restaurant owned by Sebastian Younger. That's his second plug for the show. He gets so many plugs. We love Sebastian and Scott Anderson. They're co-owners of the Half King, and we're doing an event on November 14th called Pen, Paper, Palette, where it's a panel of authors, best-selling authors, who are going to get together, and we're going to discuss wars of the 20th and 21st century. It's going to be an amazing panel. It's at the Half King. You can go to thehalfking.com, sign up for tickets. It's a very small venue. It's a very exclusive event, but if you want to sign up, go to thehalfking.com and click on events and click on the month of November. And November 14th, you'll see Pen, Paper, Palette. I'm very excited to do that event. And that's really one of the big ones I got coming up that I want to throw out there. And aside from that, again, I'm writing every day. I'm actually working on my second book as well about another great Marine hero. So that's in the works. I'm working on the documentary. So it keeps me busy, man, but it's what I love to do. And I think at the beginning and the end of every day, if I'm telling stories about veterans or helping veterans, that's really what makes me happy, man.
You are the small town boy that made it big. So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to connect in the very beginning of all this. I'm crazy honored that you even thought twice to reach back out to me and get back on here. One thing I want to end on, and before I even ask the question, I want to thank you for your time and again coming back on. And I'm just appreciative of your hustle, right? Like watching your hustle, and it makes the rest of us that are going through the motions and putting ourselves out there, it really is motivation. So you're not only touching people and affecting people on the side of impact of the words that you've written, but just the actions that you do daily, and you walk the walk. And I think that is very admirable. So the last question I have is, what is the lesson that's taking you the longest to learn?
I would say the lesson that is probably one of the most important and takes a long time to develop is listening to those you lead. And that's a learned skill for most. And it took me a long, long time to realize that I just needed to shut up and listen. Mm-hmm. And to be able to develop that skill is something that it does take time. I think there's some people that are naturally born with it. And I am in awe of those people. And when I see them in action, not saying anything, and they're just taking it all in, I'm like, God, I wish I could be like that. Yeah. And listen more. Which is, again, it's ironic from a guy that does, is a public speaker for a living, and I write and do commentary. Yeah. But, being able to listen to those you lead, I think is probably something that if I could go back and be a better listener, that's probably something I would apply.
Yeah. Well, Scott, man, I can't say it again or better than I did the first time. Thank you so much for sharing more time with me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show. And again, if you want to get a copy of the book, a portion of the proceeds from Echo and Ramadi go to Save the Brave. You can buy a copy on Amazon today. Just go to Amazon, type in Echo and Ramadi, and a portion of the proceeds help veterans with post-traumatic stress at savethebrave.org. And if you want to find out more about the Marines or me, you can go to my website at echoandramadi.com, and you can see photos. You can click on the link and buy a copy of the book there. Mm-hmm. And again, you're not just getting a great story, you are helping veterans, whether you like it or not. I'm going to donate a portion of the proceeds to help vets with post-traumatic stress at savethebrave.org. So, hey, thanks again, Robert, for everything you do. And thanks to all the listeners out there. Great pod. And I'm happy to be back on anytime you'll have me, brother.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Scott. Have a fantastic journey, brother. I want to thank you for listening to another episode of You're the Vet, and please, again, share this with your friends, share this with your family, share this with other veterans, and share this with anybody who is interested in podcasts and just wants to hear good stories. Please go to the social media sites of You're the Vet and like and follow them. Engage with the community, engage with me. Make sure you head on over